Okay, good evening, Rabbi. Tonight we're going to talk about the occasion of this evening of the day, which is Tu B'Av. The truth is, we talked about this already in several lectures in the earlier years, and we mentioned all kinds of elements, that are involved with this holiday. I posted them, by the way. You can see them, if you want to see. A lot of elements there, a lot of angles, all kinds of interesting things. According to Kabbalah, according to Talmud, according to history, according to all kinds of things. So tonight I wanted to emphasize maybe one interesting thing, which is talking about the issue of Tu B'Av, which as it's recounted in the Talmud, right, it talks over there about the 5 things that happened there, the 5 good tidings that occurred, the 5 good events that occurred over there. So therefore it was made to a holiday. It's like a good omen. It's a good sign for the day. Good things are always happening on that day throughout history. That's one thing, right? We talked about that, and we talked about other things as well. That it was also Tu B'Av is like a holiday for, for matchmaking, like love. Like in other words, marriage or things like this. To find your mate, right? All kinds of things like this. Tu B'Av is like that kind of a day. And we talked about that, why that is, and historically how that happened, and from Talmud, Masechet Ta'anit, it talks about over there. But tonight I wanted to discuss something maybe a little bit more on the minor side, but also the truth is very important as well, which is in Masechet Ta'anit, also in the Gemara Ta'anit, Daf Lamud Aleph. It says over there, this is the last page of the Gemara before it ends. So over there it talks about something interesting, that Tu B'Av has an interesting quality, right? Which is exactly what we just talked about. Which has to do with the weather. And as you know, right, that we're in the heat of the summer, right? I don't need to tell you that. So what does that have to do with the holiday Tu B'Av? So it says in the Gemara over there, in this Gemara, that what happens is that after Tu B'Av, after this day, which is tonight, tomorrow, this is the holiday, right? What happens is that it starts to get colder. The temperature starts to go down. This is usually the way it is. You know what I mean? As you said, the weather report, right? Exactly. That's what it says in the Gemara. The season starts to shift. It's the peak of the summer. And now you're like beyond the peak. Going downward. That's the peak is Tu B'Av. So this is exactly what we're doing right now. We're shifting into a little bit colder, a little bit chillier, and so on, so forth, and so on. That's all important thing, because we need that. Obviously, we need the relief from the heat wave that we've had. But besides that, also, the Gemara stresses something else about Tu B'Av, which is that if you look at the calendar, in the summer, there's a certain extreme, that happens in the calendar. What does that mean? The nights are very short, and the days are very long. Right? So, what does that mean? Like, for instance, in the New York area, in the tip of the summer, like we are now, we're a little bit past that already. We're talking about 14 hours or 15 hours of daylight, and the rest is night, right? Which is only 9 hours. So, the nights are very short. Days are very long. Instead of being 12 and 12, it's 15 and 9. So, okay, so what does that matter for us? So what happens is like this, right? Now when Tu B'Av passes, the nights start getting longer, little by little, gradually, The day starts getting shorter, right? And the nights start getting longer. So what does that have to do with Judaism? What does it have to do with halakha? What does it have to do with religion? What's the connection? So the connection is like this, that according to Jewish halakha, according to Jewish law, according to Jewish tradition, when you have more nighttime, it's better for one thing. You know what that is? For Torah study. Why is that? Because it says in the Gemara, right, that Lelia legirsa nivra. What does that mean? The night was made for learning. It's very conducive to learning Torah at night, as opposed to the daytime. So we'll explain why that is, why it's better to learn at night than in the day. What difference does it make, right? You're learning. What difference does it make if it's daytime or nighttime? It's all the same, right? You put in 2 hours, you put in 3 hours of learning. What difference does it make if it's dark outside or light outside? You know what I mean? So it says the Gemara something a little bit extreme. Look what it says, right? That a person, now the nights are getting longer, so therefore Gemara says you have to increase your Torah learning at night. Right? Because you got now more time. You know what I mean? So what does that mean? You need, on the average, right? How much time do you need to sleep at night? Some people do 8, some people do 8 hours, some people do 6 hours, 7 hours. 6 to 8 hours on the average, right? But that's about the average. How much do you do, by the way?
I can't sleep much. So.
How much do you do?
How much sleep do I get?
Yeah, 6, 4, 5, 6.
I'm in and out.
You're in and out, right? Inconsistent. So, yeah, so I get the point. I get that. But that's the average, right? 6 to 8 hours, right? So here's the thing now. As we said, right, during this heat of the summer, you only have 9 hours of night. So if you're sleeping, let's say, on the average, I don't know, 6 hours for argument's sake, right? So how much time do you have left at the nighttime? 3 hours. So, okay, what about dinner? What about, taking a shower, things like this, right? You told me showers, right? All these things. Okay, so how much time do you have left for learning? Not really much, all the 9 hours is gone. Dinner, shower, this, right? Sleeping, blah, blah, blah. You're gone. You're finished, right? So there isn't really much time to learn at night during the short nights, in the summer. But what happens is that now the nights are getting longer. So says the Gemara, now it's getting longer. So learn more Torah. That's the whole point, right? That's what you got to do. So it says something very radical, in the Gemara. Look what it says, right? If you're going to be adding Torah time in the summer, very good, right? You did the right thing. Thumbs up. We give you a thumbs up, right? We give you a like. If you're not adding Torah, you know what's going to be, right? Hashem Yerachem, right? He's going to die, it says, right? He'd lose his life because of that. Very extreme language. So you see from there, by the way, that Torah is a life and death situation. You know what I mean? If you're not in Torah, you have no life. You're death. Like the Zarkadosh says, right? It says Zarkadosh, right? The Torah is called the tree of life. Etz HaChaim. That's how it says in Hebrew, right? Look over there, right? It says Etz HaChaim. You see on the wall?
Yes.
Right? The tree of life is the Torah. So it says Zarkadosh. If you're plugged in, you're in life. You plug out of the Torah, that's it. Life is gone. Death. Right? That's all there is without Torah. You understand? So therefore, the Torah is very crucial. It's a tree of life. But especially in the night, right? I'm going to explain why that is, by the way, in a second. But before we get to that, right? It says the Gemara is very, very, very extreme. That if you don't add Torah time at night after Tu B'Av, because the nights are getting longer, he may die because of that. Hashem Yerachem, right? So then, why do we see people are not dying? From this kind of a thing. And the truth is, we don't know why they're dying. That's not the issue. But what I'm saying is, it's obviously people don't know this. Hashem doesn't punish them. They don't know. But the ones who know and they're responsible, what does that mean? That they do study Torah, but they act negligently. So then, really, it could happen to somebody like that. You know what I mean? That he doesn't study Torah at night. He messes around. But he knows the importance of Torah. He's already, living that way. He's a religious guy. He's whatever. He's a rabbi, whatever. He's a scholar, whatever, right? So he has to be more attentive to these kinds of things. I mean, so that's what the Gemara says. So why is it so crucial, to study Torah at night, dafka? As opposed to the daytime. What difference does it make? When I look out the window, right? Oh, it's light, it's dark. What difference? I'm still studying. What difference does it make if it's light or dark? So according to the simple meaning, you know why that is? Because they say the Chazal, the night is more conducive to Torah study. What's the reason why? Because in the daytime, just like you said, right? People are on the subway, going to work, making a buck, making a living. I mean, so they don't have time to study in daytime. So when does a real person have the time to study? At night. What does that mean? You know what that means? You come home, right? Okay, you have dinner, right, with your family. You know, whatever, you help the kids with the homework a little bit, blah, blah, blah. You know, the usual stuff, right? You know, you spend some time with your wife, yap a little bit with your wife, here and there, right? But the whole point is like this, right? That the Torah, the night is not for that, it's for Torah, So you got to shorten everything as much as possible and go in to learn Torah. But here's the thing, right? When they go to sleep, your children and your wife, so now you have a few extra, hours perhaps, you know what I mean? You don't sleep as much as they do. They say, by the way, on the average, that a woman requires like an hour more sleep than a man. Go figure, right? I don't know why that is. There's some kind of physiological reason for that, right? Whatever it is, but the women do usually on the average they require like an hour more, right? So therefore, that hour that your wife is sleeping and your children are sleeping, now you have the time to learn Torah. So that's the whole thing, right? Why is the night conducive to Torah? Because then everybody's sleeping and now you have a little time, to open up a book and start learning. That's the thing, It's just more conducive in terms of the situation in the life. In the daytime you're working, right? Nighttime you're coming in, dinner, blah, 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 this, that, right? Then they go to sleep. Now I have some time by myself, So instead of playing around with, internet and this and that, right? Go and study Torah. That's the whole thing, right? So that's why, according to the simple meaning, the night is more conducive to acquiring Torah than daytime. So therefore, says the Rambam, that a person acquires most of his Torah at night. Why is that? As we said, this is the reason why, according to the simple meaning. So therefore, a person has to be careful after Tu B'Av, which is tonight, tomorrow, consequently, right afterwards, subsequently, to increase his Torah time appropriately, according to the length of the night. Now he has more time to learn. This is according to a simple meaning. But there's also a deeper meaning to this, Right? In order to get into a deeper meaning, we'll say something from the Talmud, and then we'll continue on to the Zohar, and we'll go into the Kabbalah a little bit, right? To complement, right, our discussion, supplement our discussion. So it says in the Gemara like this, right? That whoever learns Torah at night, chut shel chesed milaveu yom haba. What does that mean? That he gets kindness the following day. If you learn Torah at night, the next day the world will be kinder to you. He used to say that guy. Remember that guy? The president he used to say, a kinder and gentler nation. You remember that? You know what that was?
Sure, Bush Senior.
Right. Right? He was the biggest gangster, by the way, but he was talking about kinder and gentler. It was all a slogan. Biggest criminal. So what do you call it? Kinder and gentler, yeah. Okay, yeah. Give me a break with your kinder and gentler.
What a scam.
Total scam.
The whole country.
It's a total scam. Right? So it's all big. It's all big one. It's all one big ham sandwich. If you know what I mean. Too much pork in there. So what do you call it? Going back to what we said, right? That's what Gemara says. So what does that mean? If you learn Torah at night, next day you're going to be a winner. This is what they tell you. So what does that mean? Hashem will bless you, because you took out time from your night to learn, even though, you wanted to sleep a little bit more, maybe eat a little bit more, have some fancy foods, go out to a restaurant, and pig out, hapisga, all kinds of, these kinds of places, right? Have a big steak over there, some giant steak, which is like, double the size of your stomach, right? And, you go out there. So instead of that, you're sitting and learning Torah. So Hashem says, if he's doing that, right, he's skipping his dinners, fancy dinners, and this and that, and he's learning Torah, so I'll bless him for the next day. So this is the simple meaning of the Gemara, right? That's how it explains, right? But the Zarkadosh gets into a deeper thing with this, you know what I mean? As is usually the way it is, right? In Kabbalah, we go a little bit deeper. Zarkadosh, blah, blah, blah. So Zarkadosh says something else altogether. What's the reason why the night is more conducive to learning Torah than the daytime? Because it says HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes down, to listen to the Torah of the Tzaddikim during that time. He comes into the lower Gan Eden. By the way, there's two Gan Edens, right? Garden of Eden. There's two of them. There's one in heaven, and there's one on the earth. So the one on the earth, it's the entrance is in Eretz Israel, Marat HaMachpelah. The caves of the fathers over there, the forefathers, patriarchs, over there, right? That's where the entrance is to Gan Eden over there. That's why they're buried there, our forefathers, to bask in the light of the garden. Right? That's the whole thing. So there's the lower Gan Eden, and then there's the upper Gan Eden. What is the upper Gan Eden? It's in heaven, it's heavenly. In other words, it's all souls. There's no bodies there. It's a heavenly kind of a paradise.
So we won't recognize each other when we get there.
I don't know about that, but anyway, right? This we'll find out when we get there. But
nobody's come back to tell us, huh?
Actually, there were some people who came back. Anyway, we're not going to talk about that now. That's not a discussion.
Did they describe what was up?
Yeah, they described some things, but I'm not going to get through it now. We gotta study up on that a little bit. You know what I mean? Brush up on that, and then we can come and talk about it with confidence. You know what I mean? Just not. I don't want to get into haphazard discussion.
So over there, you're not going to have a beard. Or it won't even matter.
Oh God. Well, here's the thing, right?
Yeah.
It's a very interesting question, by the way, what you're asking. It's a very, very powerful question, and there is an answer to that, by the way. But just before we get into that issue, what's up there, what's down here, right? What is like this? They say that the lower Gan Eden, it's like underground.
I hope it's not that underground. Yeah.
So maybe we thought that was it, but it wasn't.
We may find Andre there. We'll have to drag him out of there.
Yeah. You're funny. So. Okay, so anyway, right, as we said, that we have under the ground Gan Eden, we have above ground also in the heaven. So what's the difference? As we said, right over here, it's with your body, but it's a different configuration, not the body you have now. It's a much cleaner body, purer body, more spiritual. It's a different thing altogether. Up there's no body at all. It's just like souls. You know what I mean? So it's like a spiritual paradise. Which one is stronger, by the way? Which one is more powerful? Up there, they say much stronger. It's like a different, like it's beyond. Beyond. It's beyond. So, you know what I mean? The pleasure up there is much greater than the pleasure over here. Even though this one isn't too shabby either. You know what I mean?
Mamuka may find that hard to believe.
Okay, so what we're saying is like this, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what he does is that after midnight, right? Here's the thing. It says in the Zarkadosh, after midnight, which is the middle of the night, in halachic hours, in terms of halacha, right? A little bit after our midnight that we have, 12 o'clock. Usually it's a little bit after. In the winter, it's a little bit before. It doesn't make any difference, but the point is like this, right? Kadosh Baruch Hu says in the Zarkadosh, he comes down to Gan Eden, the lower Gan Eden, and listens to the Torah that people are studying in the world. With the tzaddikim over there, with the righteous, So what does that mean? Hashem very much enjoys, the sound of Torah that he hears, that we're learning after midnight. So this is the reason why it's considered to be such a big blessed thing, to learn Torah at night. So what does that mean? Right? There's a difference between the Talmud and the Zohar Kadosh. What's the difference? The difference is, right, that the Talmud says at night, doesn't define which part of the night we're talking about. Beginning of the night, end of the night. According to Talmud, it's all the same. According to Zohar Kadosh, right, the real conducive time is after midnight. You know what I mean? That's when you're really supposed to be learning Torah. So what does that mean? The Kabbalists, Rabbi Shimon and and his friends, right, who were depicted in the Zarkadosh, what they used to do is the first part of the night they would sleep. What does that mean? They would go to sleep, let's say around 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, after eating dinner, and whatever. They would learn a little bit also, little learning. They would go to sleep, and then when it came to midnight, which is about 1 o'clock, let's say, around 1 o'clock, they would wake up, and start learning Torah until the morning. So all that second part of the night, after midnight, they would be learning Torah. Why is that? Because the Zarkadosh says, right, that that's the best time to learn Torah. So according to the Kabbalah, the best time to learn Torah is after midnight. And that's what it says, right, in the Zarkadosh, that if you learn after midnight, then you'll have kindness the day after, Hashem will send you kindness that day after. In other words, you have a good day, successful day. Not too much suffering, not too much, hassle, not too much sweating on the subway, right, over the platform. You know what I mean? Makes it more bearable. That's what it's saying. So this is the reason why we're so particular about learning Torah at night. According to the Kabbalah.
Yeah.
So therefore, a person should be very, very careful as much as he can. According to each person's ability. Not everybody, by the way, has the ability to do this. It's not really an obligation according to halakha. To study after midnight. You know what I mean? Like most normal people are sleeping at that time. You know what I mean? They got to work. They got to go to work the next day, so they got to go to bed by 11 or 12. They got to be in bed, hit the hay. So they don't have time to do this kind of stuff. But the people who are more pious, the Hasidim, the pious people, saintly people, that's what they do. They stay up, or they wake up. They first go to sleep and then they wake up after midnight and study Torah. That's what they do. In order to be involved with this kindness, right? The band of kindness, Chut Shel Chesed, string of kindness, Dosh Baruch Hu gives you for studying Torah after midnight. So by the way, I can tell you, just from experience, it works. Trust me when I tell you. It's not some kind of a scam, you know what I mean? God forbid. Just like the whole Torah. The whole Torah works. That's the way it is. Nothing, there's no scams in the Torah. So everything is true. So this is the way it is, So this is why the Gemara is telling you, after Tu B'Av, now you have more time at night. So, you got to learn more Torah. Right? Very, very important. So you know what it says, as we said, right? If he doesn't do it, this is the language that it uses, right? That his mother will bury him. His mother will bury him. Why does it say his mother will bury him? That means he'll die young, His mother is still alive. That's what it means to say. So, therefore, right, the Tu B'Av is like a very, very crucial point in the summer, like some kind of an apex, Remember apex, Jeff, right? So it's like, you're going from one extreme to the other, right? Going over the top, as they say, right? Going over the top and coming back down. You're in the apex. This is where you are. This is where we are right now. Tu B'Av is the apex, right? Not for air conditioning. That's a different.
We'll give you a government grant, educational loan. Okay. You remember that?
So this is the story of Tu B'Av also. This element of Tu B'Av, that a person has to increase Torah study. Here's the thing, there's been since those times of the Zohar, Rabbi Shimon and his friends, they used to do this, by the way, as we said, right? They would sleep the first part of the night, second part of the night, they would learn all night. By the way, who was the one who originated this custom? According to our tradition, it says in Masechet Brachot, in Gemara, David HaMelech was the first one, or he was like the famous one. I don't know if he was the first one, but he was a famous rabbi that did this, He was that used to wake up, he would sleep, he would wake up at midnight, and from then on until the morning, he would learn Torah, right? There's two different versions of that in the Gemara. Some say he would learn Torah, some say he would sing songs to Hashem, Deep Purple, kind of stuff. Deep Purple. So, we have the... So that's the way it was, in those days. So David HaMelech was the one who originated this custom. And then the Mekubalim, who went after this saintly path. Because David HaMelech was a saint, He was not just a regular Jew, he was saintly. He was very pious. So this is the reason why he was going after all kinds of things like this, which are not really the basic halakha, more than that, much more.
And yet he didn't get to live too long, did he?
Oh, he died at 70 years old. Right, it's true, yeah. It's a very interesting
Is that
issue
supposed
with
to
that.
be symbolic that he died at 70?
That what? What's the symbol?
Well, supposedly God gives you 70, but every day after that is a gift.
Wow, that's very interesting what you're saying. The truth is, according to the simple meaning, the reason why David died at 70 is because he was a man of war, he fought a lot of wars, so his body was like depleted, because in those days war was not like, flying an airplane or a tank, it was like physical combat, you know what I mean? You go out with a sword.
So it's not because
you know what I mean? Like you
because
gotta,
of sin. It's not because of this.
Oh no, for sure not. It wasn't an issue of sin.
Oh, I always thought it was.
It was his body was depleted because of the wars. This was according to a simple meaning. This is the reason why he died at a young age, a relatively young age.
So what was the punishment that he received?
Oh, for what? For going with that lady?
Yeah.
The punishment was he lost his kingdom for quite a while.
I thought he was killed for that.
He lost his kingdom and then he was restored.
Oh, I see.
Yes. So this is what happened with David. So he was the one who originated this custom, or the famous one, right? That we quote, that we talk about that had this custom. Then the Mekubalim carried it on afterwards like that also. By the way, even in the later books, that we have like 100 years ago, they talk about this also. The pious Kabbalists, especially in the Sephardi world, like Iraqi, Moroccan, these pious people.
Why would a man of his wisdom do such a foolish thing?
Oh, we talked about that. We gave lectures on that.
Knew that he was going to get punished for it.
We gave lectures on that. I think you should go back and listen to those things because we explained pretty well. Those issues.
I guess he couldn't resist a nice piece of.
Well. Something like that, but it's a little bit more complicated, of course, a little bit deeper than that, right?
I can't blame him.
A little bit deeper than that. After all, he was a pious man, you know what I mean? He wasn't a street guy, some playboy, you know what I mean? Chas v'shalom. He wasn't like that. So he was a pious man, after all, right? So, but that's not our discussion, right? We can discuss that some other time. We already did, by the way. We did talk about that in lectures, several lectures. If you go back, you can hear about them. Look up King David, like King David, you'll find the sin of King David. I have lectures on that. Yeah, we have lectures on that. At least 2 lectures you'll find on that topic. So you'll hear yourself there too. You were there. At least in one of them, if not both. So anyway, right, getting back to our issue, what happened was like this, right, that later on though, like in the last 300-400 years, the rabbis were not able to do this anymore so much, you know what I mean? To do this trick that they used to do. What does that mean? To sleep in the first part of the night, and then to get up and then learn until the morning, In other words, it depletes the body of energy. It's just very hard to do that. The body, it has a hard time with that. Just getting up like that, interrupting your sleep in the middle of the night. Just getting up and learning, So the truth is, the rabbis, start to get weaker. The generation starts to get lower. So they weren't able to do this, like they used to do in those days. Because in those days, they were like supermen, they were very powerful people. The rabbis of those days, even all the Jews, all the people. They were super, super strong, they had like superhuman strength, these people. Like we're like, jellyfish compared to them, you know what I mean? They could squash us with their fist. We're nothing. So, what do you call it? Those people were able to stay up like that, but as the generation started to go down, they were not able to stay up like that anymore. That's why most people, nowadays don't do this anymore, because just physically, it doesn't work out so good. So then, right, in other words, practically speaking, what is the solution, and how do you? Okay, let's say we can't be on the level that they used to be in those days, right? Those big chachamim, but what can we do in our generation to even, come close to that, right? As much as possible. So here's the thing, right? There are some compromises that have been done. one way, some of the later rabbis, what they did was, instead of going to sleep the first part of the night, and then getting up in the middle, which is very hard, to get up and, to go from sleep to being awake, it disturbs the body, you know what I mean? So therefore, what they used to do is like this, instead of doing that, they would just stay up like in the beginning of the night and study, and then like go after midnight a little bit, let's say until 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, right? And then they would go to sleep. And then wake up, let's say 7 or 8 in the morning and pray shachrit. You know what I mean? So why they do it this way? Because they weren't able to do like they used to do in those days physically. It was too hard for them. You know what I mean? They were not on that level. So therefore, what they did was at least to learn a little bit after midnight. You know what I mean? To get that quality of learning after midnight, that kindness the next day. You want that, right? So you want to have the kindness. You don't want to be sweating bullets on the platform. You know what I mean? So therefore, right, what they did was they tried to learn after midnight at least somewhat. You know what I mean? At least an hour or two after midnight. Something like that, Whatever they can muster. There's also another way they do it. Some other rabbis, they have a different system, which is they go to sleep a little bit earlier, let's say about 10 or 11. So they can't get up at midnight, which is like 1 o'clock. So what they do is they get up around 4, So they sleep like 5-6 hours, 4 or 5 hours, it's depending on the level they're on. And they get up around 4. It's still night, so they have the time to learn. It's still night and after midnight until 5, 6 o'clock until the daylight comes. You know what I mean? So this is another solution. So some people do it this way, some people do it that way. Maran Abba Shalom, our rabbi, what he used to do was, he was a very strong person, very powerful. So what he would do was like this, his custom was like this. He would stay up till like about 3 o'clock in the morning, and learn. All night, like until 3:30, something like that. And then he would sleep for like a couple of hours, and then go to Shachrit, He would even learn before Shachrit also, before that. So in other words, he was sleeping very, very little, but he wasn't going to sleep in the first part of the night. He was studying all the way through until he just, collapsed. And that's how he suggested to us, by the way, to do also. The people who were learning in the yeshiva, he told us, the Abraham, he told us we should do like that, He would tell us, like, learn till 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. This is the way the Avrahim should do. The Talmud Chachamim, the Torah scholars, who are married or whatever, that's the way they should do it. That's what he told us. As we said, right, there are others also who do it a different way. Rav Moshe Feinstein Abba Shalom also, at least Chacham Ben Zion Abba Shalom, Mutzafi also told us he does this way. What do they do? They go to sleep, like 11, and they wake up around 4, and then they learn until the morning. So we can't do, like most of us cannot do, 99% of us, 99.99%, whatever it is, right? We can't do like they used to do, like Rabbi Shimon and his friends and David HaMelech, right? We cannot do like that. It's not possible for us. So we do the best we can, according to our ability, but we try to get that kindness by learning, right, after midnight somewhat, some little bit, whatever, half hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever a person can get. You understand? That's the thing. So that's the way you achieve, and by the way, it says the Rambam that if a person learns at night like that, he acquires the crown of Torah. What does that mean? He becomes very learned, after a while. In other words, he doesn't waste his nights, doing nonsense. Playing around, remote control, blah, 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 this, that. Movies, news, politics, switching around, right, from here to there. Jumping around with your remote control. Right? That's not the way to grow in Torah. So what do you have to do? Go into it. Open your books, right, and start to learn. What I mean?
What if Star Trek is on? Or The Odd Couple?
That's exactly the point. Exactly the point. So there you go, right? So that's the way it is. So that's our job, according to the Gemara. Gemara tells us, right, that once Tu B'Av passes, which is tonight, tomorrow, we have to start now accelerating our Torah study, right, and getting longer, and as the night gets longer as the time progresses until we get to the winter. We have to keep learning more and more and more at night, in order to achieve the crown of Torah. Kadosh Baruch Hu should help us to achieve the crown of Torah with Hashem and bring Mashiach b'mira b'yameinu, amen v'amen. Chazak Baruch, be blessed with wealth, health, and happiness.
Amen.
and no sweat on the subway.
Yeah.
Amen, amen.
Rabbi, what did we gain? 15 minutes lately? With the sun used to go